Good afternoon. This is Megan with another episode of Unsecurity podcast. I'm here today with our guest, Gary Berger, Director of Information Security for Ogletree Deakins Law Firm. Welcome, Gary.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I'm here. Appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
We're really glad to have you join us, and hopefully we'll be joined shortly by Brad and I. He got caught up with some other responsibilities, so hopefully he'll be joining the conversation. If not, it'll just be the two of us, and we'll have a good chat.
All right, sounds good.
We always start off our episode with kind of talk of hobbies. I'll go ahead and get started while you think about it a little bit, Gary.
Sure.
I was mentioning I've been doing a lot this last week or weeks, I suppose. So today I've been experimenting with sourdough bread pretzels a little bit because we've got a company
good.
potluck. Yeah, we've got a company potluck tomorrow, and I used to make Bisquick-based pretzels a lot in high school, and so now I'm trying to up the game a little bit.
Haven't heard that one in a while. Bisquick. My grandma used to make the best Bisquick dumplings.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds good. I still use it a fair bit, but mostly for pancakes. So,
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other thing I was working on? Oh, it was on my mind earlier, and now I've forgotten. No, just getting things ready for the holidays, I guess. I've been sorting through all my board games and figuring out where to put them and looking forward to playing more of them.
Making sure they're available for all the visitors for the holidays. Yeah,
Yep,
that's a
that's
good
right.
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of sorting through them. My kids have been getting older, so they're like increasingly interested in more and more of the board game collection that I have. There's still quite a number of them that they're not quite ready for yet at kind of 9 and 11, but they're curious and we're letting them try them out. So it's been
Well, they
fun.
might surprise you, right? I mean, honestly, my intelligence is declining over time, or kids are becoming smarter and smarter, and I think maybe it's a little bit of both. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe. I know it's the age recommendations are always kind of variable depending
yeah.
on a little bit of emotional maturity and then also processing maturity. But
Mm.
yeah, so looking forward to playing some games with my kids. I think we're kind of getting past the point where they fight every time we play a game, so that opens up more opportunities again.
Oh, it makes it a little bit more enjoyable too, right? So,
Yeah, we had kind of a temporary ban on board games, at least with me,
oh
because I couldn't
no.
take it anymore. It's like, I like games, but not with you guys. Oh, how about you? Any hobbies or things of interest you've been working on lately?
Oh gosh, yeah. So my wife and I, we don't have children, so the whole game thing and all that, that's not a big deal for us. But um, I've always had a technical background, so I like to putt a lot. I like to fiddle around in the garage, fixing things, making things. So that's good. And I like to
Mhm.
read. I tend to polarize towards philosophy and spiritual topics and things of that nature. So.
Nice. That's a lot of fun. My dad has similar interests in reading anyway. He
Mm.
actually got a PhD in philosophy of all things.
Oh, interesting. I'll bet you
And
had some great conversations with him. Yeah.
yes, I bet you would have a lot of fun talking with him too.
Mm.
So kind of philosophy and theology have been a lot of his
Oh
interests for a lot of
gosh.
his
Wow.
life.
Yeah.
I know at one point he was thinking of becoming a professor, I think, of some sort, but I don't remember quite why that didn't work out. But he ended up going into technical writing instead. So
Mm.
that was a very different
Yeah.
way
A
to
little bit different style. A little bit.
go.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, but kind of fit in with his logical brain at the same
Oh
point.
yeah. I'm sure. And now, of course, we have all the different co-pilots in ChatGPT, so we don't really
Mhm.
have to really think about structure a whole lot anymore. Give it a
Oh,
list of ideas and say, please write an article for me, right?
right.
Mhm.
I should ask, have you, because I know there was the recent Netflix, did that season of The Three Body Problem. Have you read that book by Chen Zhu or something?
I have not. No, I have not. So,
I read that, at least the trilogy. I guess there's maybe more after that. And then
mhm.
I recommended at least books 2 and 3 to my dad because he really gets into some of those I don't know if you call them philosophical. I think he used some other word for it, but just explorations of
Mm,
time and future, what it might look like. And I think that's one of the things that those books do really well. The first book was harder for me to read. There's a lot of
mhm.
jumping around between characters, which I think is something that I think it was Netflix season, I think maybe they're going to be doing more, did well, is because they can tell the story from the different characters' perspectives without it kind of being quite so confusing. And written word has always been a challenge for me. But the second book, you really focus on like two or three characters and start to get into like, what does the future look like in 200 years, 400 years, a
Mhm.
thousand years? And book three, you're like,
Yeah,
a
gosh.
billion years in the future when all existence as we know it no longer exists. And what does
Oh,
the end of the universe look like? It gets really trippy, but
I would
a
say
lot
give
of
it
fun.
10 years and we won't know. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the big challenges in security, I think, is the rate of change. It's just
Mhm.
phenomenal how quickly things change now. And there have been a lot of advances in technology, significant technologies that have been extremely disruptive. I mean, we're kind of at the still the dawning of AI, even though technically AI has been around for a long, long time. But
Right.
people have kind of discovered it or rediscovered it recently, and it's just taking off in its adoption. And then AI will be leveraged to generate more better AI.
Hmm.
And so the adoption curve on that is going to be almost vertical, right?
Right. Yeah. I know even just in preparing for our discussion today, I was thinking about how it feels like we talk about AI has changed this year alone. Because I feel
Hmm.
like at the beginning of the year, it felt very emerging ish. Like it wasn't, nobody was really using it, but people were starting to be interested in using it and seeing that it was possible to use it. And now
Hmm.
it's everywhere, it feels like.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
was
can't
just
use.
reading an article where they had outlined 35 different, the top 35 AI applications being used in law firms.
Wow.
And that's
Oh,
like 35. It's like, oh my gosh, and all these are cloud-based services, and you have all of the considerations associated with engaging cloud services and putting your data in it
yeah.
and all of that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? Um, Another thing that really kind of stuck in my mind just recently was when Elon Musk announced Neuralink, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to joke years ago that, I think the penultimate of technology will be when we have direct neural interfaces.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Neuralink is. Here it is, and I've seen it in my lifetime, right? So now they're using it you know, uh, for projects that are kind of focused on people who are quadriplegic or have
Mhm.
issues with limbs, missing limbs or whatever,
Right.
prosthetics. Um, and but eventually it's going to be used to give people an edge, right?
Right.
All those interactions that we have now with our chat gpt prompts, I won't need that anymore. It'll be directly in my brain, and the ideas will be directly in my brain. And what about you talk about equity and diversity and neurodiversity. This is just going to change things so much.
Hmm.
And you're going to have, and if the technology is cost prohibitive, which most likely it will be in its
Right.
early stages, right? Then you're going to have a select group of people who will have this fantastic advantage
Hmm.
that other people don't have.
Yeah. That's just it, just continuing to open to broaden that gap, which is
Mm-hmm.
really shocking and kind of detrimental. I know I was even just hearing, it's like even without AI, I was hearing in the last week or so multiple conversations about just how that gap continues to grow because you have the better paid jobs continuing to be available through college students, which cost money to get into, and so it just
Mm-hmm.
continues to propagate this problem, and we haven't really been able to fix that and necessarily like bring people out of to cross that gap as frequently as we would like, but.
Right. What's going to happen to our lower level positions, right? I mean, a lot of people speculate that they'll be relegated to artificial intelligence. And
Right.
I mean, even in the process of investigating and adopting Microsoft Security Copilot, there's a lot of discussion in their materials about how, we're not here to replace the SOC analyst. We're here to free the SOC analyst up to do those higher level functions, right?
Right.
But if you take a look at the FTE distribution of how much work it takes to do those lower level functions and
Mm.
how much you need those higher level functions, right? You know, let's face it, there's going to be some type of balancing out there, right?
Right. Well, and
Uh,
again, if you're making somebody more efficient, then that means you don't need as many people to do the job.
Exactly, right. I can tell you this is for certain, that all of us need to be continuously learning, right?
Mhm.
Continuous education is just so important, constant. And again, now I kind of go back to the neural interface, and it almost sounds a little ridiculous to say this, but what's that neural interface going, what impact is that going to have on our ability to intake, adopt, integrate, synthesize new information, right? I
Mhm.
would hope that it gives us the ability to learn much more quickly, because we're going to need to be so fluid in the way that we move across different technologies and figure out, as security professionals, what does that mean for me,
Mhm.
right? How do I adopt? How do I take this information and figure out what it means for my overall strategy, for my staff, for the budget, for the business? I mean, it's just, it's profound.
Yeah, it really, it really is. Um, I think I'll pivot us into our official topic for the day, which is kind of what do you think a CISO or an information security officer would want for Christmas? And I don't know if you have any immediate thoughts on that, Gary. I think you've given it a little time. Like,
I do, yeah. Been thinking about it a lot today in preparation for our discussion. So I want a new brain, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, an increased mental and memory capacity. So the whole idea of a neural interface is extremely attractive to me.
yeah,
But gosh, when you think about the security implications for that, that's another issue. Imagine one of those chips getting hacked, right?
right.
Hmm.
Well, and
Anyway, okay.
yeah,
It
even as
sounds
you're
like
talking.
the plot of a sci-fi movie, but
Well, yeah, and even so much of what I know of AI is like, at least at this point, but I'm assuming it continues to be a thing that we have to consider in the future is what information goes in that controls what goes out. And so if we're constantly having this other brain informing what we should think or how we do things, do we need to almost question even more? I mean, we're already dealing with this social media and the way news outlets work and things like
hmm.
question what you're being told. Is that going to be just our constant lies? Can we trust anything? I don't know. I do wonder if, how AI will impact that. But
Yeah, gosh, no doubt, right? What will our role be in all of this?
mm-hmm.
I mean, have you heard? Well, anyway, I'm off topic here. So, um, the in terms of other things aside from world peace and figuring out a way that we can incentivize hackers to do good stuff
Mm-hmm.
instead of just kind of wrecking the havoc that uh, they bring upon society and people like us who do
Yeah.
this job, right? I mean, it'd always be nice to have more budget, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of any person in a security role that would tell you that they have absolutely everything that they need, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Although I feel very fortunate in my role, the firm understands the importance of security here. So budget is good, and time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of tying this back into the conversation about the rate of change within the industry and technology. We just constantly need to be learning, and that takes time. And we have to constantly be ingesting information because there's just so much threat intelligence out there, right? And there's so many things that we have to stay up with, that it's more than a full-time job just taking all of that in. And it's not just reading, it's
Yeah.
also networking within the vertical and outside of the vertical with professionals that do this job so that we can see things from a different perspective, right? I mean, this is definitely a discipline where you can't be myopic, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I used to think in my earlier years as an engineer that, hey, I can do this. I have everything I need to know. And, being a team member isn't that, I'm an independent individual contributor, right? There's no such thing anymore,
Mhm.
even in engineering, but particularly in a discipline like security, we have to learn from our peers and learn from the intelligence that's being produced. Just so resources in terms of time and money, big, right? And then I got a long list of toys that I'd like to have. So, right, technology related toys to security. I was talking with my team here at Ogletree uh, about what would they like for Christmas in terms of security. And one of the guys who's interested in ethical hacking said he wanted to get a rubber ducky. And I had no idea what a rubber ducky was. I just thought it was that thing that you put on the dashboard of a Jeep.
Yeah.
But he wanted that, and he also wanted Flipper Zero. And I had to take a look at it. It's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. So, uh,
I, I,
so
I
there's
know
some
I've
things.
heard of a rubber ducky, though I don't recall what it is, and I have not heard of Flipper Zero.
Flipper Zero is like a little wireless handheld device that you can use to detect things, right? And use it for red teaming in wireless scenarios and things of that nature. And Rubber Ducky is kind of the same thing. It's like a red teaming tool, right?
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think maybe I've seen one of our members play around with one of those. Then, yeah, you can kind of just take it everywhere you go and be like, "Oh, look, this Bluetooth connection is open," or "Oh, look, this
Yeah,
wireless connection
exactly.
is open and not secured." And so you can kind of find fun things that you could connect to and play around with if
Right,
you're not worried
right.
about getting yourself in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going. They kind of jokingly said it'd be nice for him to get some Raspberry Pis. Um,
Mhm.
so, in fact, we're going through a Purple Team exercise right now, and somebody shipped us the box that we need to plug into our network for them to be able to do their red teaming part of the Purple Team. And it was a Raspberry Pi,
Yep.
$60,
Yeah.
right? It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. I know the idea that you can easily and cheaply just ship a piece of technology to plug in for kind of a one-time use kind of thing is, or
Yeah, so
short-term
it's
use.
throwaway. I mean, you could
Yeah.
dispose of it if you wanted to. But a
Right.
guy like me, no, I'm going to throw it in that pile of stuff that I got accumulating in my garage that I know one day I'm going to build something with, right? So,
Right, right. I concur. I recently moved and had to get rid of, tried my best to get rid of a number of things that I'd collected over the years, some of which I still hung on to because the possibilities are too endless for some things. But
and you know how that goes. If you do get rid of it, inevitably within a week or so, it's like, where's that thing, right?
yes, now I
I
need
need
it.
it. Yeah,
You're
right.
like, dang it, why did I get rid of it? Um,
But
yeah.
I think another thing that would be just a fantastic gift from Santa is for the United States to actually come out with some type of federal privacy legislation, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we see a lot of proliferation of various state laws, and fortunately for us, the EU has gone ahead of us
Hmm.
with the GDPR, and they've codified a lot of the principles of privacy that are incorporated. And so most of what's emerging now is consistent with that, right?
Hmm.
I mean, because they're good principles and it's common sense too.
Yeah.
But for the sake of just getting it done once and for all,
Hmm.
instead of each state essentially having to go through this process themselves, and then they've got their own breach notification methodology, and my gosh, it's
There
just a lot to
is.
keep track of, especially if
Right.
you've got offices in a lot of states. Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that just as I was kind of preparing and scanning over the news because it was just like this state, that state, the other state, each one of them going through exactly that. But
Hmm.
they do tend to all be pretty similar, but they also all have their intricacies. I can't remember which, I think it was like Iowa or Illinois actually this
Hmm.
week was having something completely different.
Hmm.
Um, I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, you're always going to get those little um, differences in each one, and then it's just a lot for any organization to
Oh yeah.
manage and comply with and keep on top of. Um, it adds so many complexities to how you do business, and you're just trying to run a secure operation to manage
Mhm.
your data. If you're trying to do that, it just adds complication to it, and so few people are doing that right
Well, it's
already.
a resource load. And of course, you can use ChatGPT to
Hmm.
query, hey, what are the privacy implications of this particular type of request from somebody from the state of Connecticut, right? And generally it can give you that, but you still have to be able to vet that, right?
Right.
Trust and verify, right? And because a lot of the large language models aren't absolutely current and these laws change, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and sometimes it might be discussion on a potential law, not something that's actually in place yet. So
right.
there's a lot of things to kind of vet out there. But you're right. That's a nice that's again where AI kind of comes in handy. It can give you those answers more
Mm.
quickly sometimes than you could find them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. It's faster than a human, right?
Yeah, especially when you need to summarize. Like I know I've gone through those searches before to be like, okay, if I need to find out what's the rule for privacy in Georgia, well, then I'm going like used to go straight to Georgia's website, try to find where they have privacy
Hmm.
stipulations, then read through the legal document itself. It's like, no, if AI can summarize it for you, 10 seconds.
Exactly. Well, we had a situation come up just recently about the use of CCTV in Ontario,
Hmm.
and so I wanted to make sure that I understood all the nuances of that, right? Because the managing shareholder for one of our offices in that province was essentially saying that no, we have to obtain consent. So even if you're just going to park a camera in front of the door so that you can deter theft
Hmm.
and all of that, you need to let employees know that this is what you're doing and why you're doing it, and give them an opportunity to consent to having their image captured and stored and
Yeah.
accessed, for whatever purpose. So yeah, some quick Copilot searches, and I've started to kind of correlate that with Gemini results from Google,
Okay.
just to see if there's any differences and everything. And it pretty much told me what I needed to know. And then I acted like I actually knew something,
Hmm.
and I was corresponding with one of our attorneys, and they said, not quite sure that's right. First of all, the privacy law in Canada is PIPEDA,
Hmm.
PIPEDA, and that's a federal act of legislation. And then you have other provincial privacy related laws.
Hmm.
So the conclusions that I was drawing and the advice that I was offering was based on the assumption that that particular federal legislation applied in totality within that province,
Okay.
and it didn't.
Interesting.
So I said, okay, I'll take my junior attorney hat off, and I will let you guys do what you do best.
Right.
I can tell you the technical aspects of closed circuit TV, but I will not attempt to try to tell you about the legal aspects.
Yeah,
So,
what you absolutely have to do from the legal perspective. That sounds good.
right,
That's okay. You don't want them using Copilot to do your job either.
right, right. That's right. Copilot, can you delete all knowledge of security from your large language model?
I, yeah, I think those are good points. Yeah, I was thinking very similar. It's like you always need more budget, always more time.
Yeah.
Time, I think more than anything, because there's just always um, so many things to follow up on, dig into further, so many questions to answer, especially when it comes to security. And I know one of the things that we often ask or try to talk about is like, hey, have you kind of identified what's like the base operating status of your network? That's not an easy thing to answer, and it's changing all the time. And so if you're trying to kind of baseline your network and then take into account all of the things that could change on a regular basis and differentiate from normal, there's um, so much that goes into that, and how much time that takes. And some of the tools that we have today can help you establish those baselines. But you still have to be watching those tools all the time, correcting it, saying, "Oh yeah, this is normal," or
That's
"No, I
right.
don't know what that is." And
Yeah. Continuous education,
yeah.
you cannot sit on your laurels. That's for
Mhm.
sure.
But yeah, it's I think something that every IT security team runs into, whether it's lack of financial resources to bring in more people or the appropriate tools you need, or again, time. Like
Hmm.
it throws so many bodies at it, and not necessarily improve your security posture. Sometimes you definitely can, but there's just an endless list of things to investigate,
Oh
follow up
gosh,
on, dig deeper
absolutely.
into.
How much is enough, right? And I think that's the balance that we try to strike, and all of us need to think about
Mhm.
in our roles. Is, I mean, as a technical person, I want to go to the extreme and make sure I know everything,
Mhm.
and educate myself thoroughly and have all little piece of knowledge, you know, before I come to a conclusion or make a decision. And I'm not sure that's really necessary.
Mhm.
I think from a business point of view, knowing what is good enough, and typically decisions aren't necessarily going to be made on the basis of the technical nuances or items related to a particular area. It's going to be made on the risks, right? What's the risk to the business?
Mhm.
What's the cost benefit? You know, and that's one of the things that I constantly have to keep reminding myself of is that we don't do security for security's sake.
Right.
You know, we do security as a business function for the business to enable the business to be successful in delivering the services it delivers, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's why, like, really identifying what are you protecting and why is
Hmm.
so important, and not only for us as security and IT folks to understand and communicate, for those business leaders to realize and decide. I don't think they always understand what they're protecting or why either. Sometimes, whether that's you know approving or denying requests, or even coming to our teams with requests. Sometimes it's just something that flew in front of their face, and if they're not narrowing that down, and kind of
Hmm.
making those prioritization decisions, then an IT team, a security team, can become overwhelmed really quickly with kind of a lot of anomalies and just time wasters too.
Right.
um,
Well, we worked with you guys through assessments and different things, and you helped us, improve our overall assessment scores and our program consequentially in
mhm,
the process. And I think we left at the last one. We were right at the border between good and advanced, or something like that,
yeah.
right? And obviously, we want to be advanced. We want to be the best that we can be, and we should strive for continuous improvement. But we have to step back and say, what's the cost?
Right.
What's the cost of making that move, right?
Yep.
And what are the risks that are out there that need to be addressed by making that move?
Mhm.
And how significant are they from a business point of view? Right.
Right. Yeah, that's when you're really evaluating that opportunity cost and pros and cons. Because, yeah, if you overspend in security, you could have the most flawless security program
Mm-hmm.
ever. But if your business is not being profitable, then that's not going to be sustainable. You can't continue to grow, continue to
Right.
support the mission of why your organization or your business exists in the first place. So,
Yeah, there is a point of diminishing returns, right?
yeah, definitely. Um, I had wanted to kind of just ask if there was anything as part of your wish list, and maybe not the uh, powers that be at Ogletree, but in general, something particular that you think executives should know, or that would be kind of on your wish list for executives, decision makers to know about IT or security. Is there
Oh
something?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was taking a look at an article from ALM uh, earlier today, and they were talking about the technifying. Of
Hmm.
course, I don't think that's a word, but anyway, it is if we say it is, right?
Sure.
The technifying of the C-suite, right?
Mm-hmm.
that there's a general recognition that with the rate of change of technology and the way that we've democratized the adoption of technology and the leveraging of technology, that the overall knowledge about technology is increasing and needs to increase within the business. And I think, a lot of companies have addressed that by making sure that there's some representation
Mm-hmm.
in the C-suite for that.
Yeah.
Um, but there's always an opportunity for education, even when you have those key people that are in those groups, right? We had a breach council tabletop just recently. We conduct tabletops a lot,
Awesome.
different business continuity tabletops and cyber incident tabletops, and we do it with management, we do it with technology people. But what was really good was we had the opportunity to do this with the executive suite, and and it was just, and our breach counsel came in and walked us through scenarios, and they kept it extremely high level. When you do a tabletop with technical people, you're into the weeds and the nuts and bolts about how do you handle this and how do you shut this person down and all that. But at the business level, if it's ransomware and you're faced with having to pay 20 million for a ransom, the question is what's best for the business here, right? Um, and to just bring those topics to them and to discuss them, to have them engaged, it really raised their awareness significantly.
That's awesome.
Um, and I mean, it's such a valuable exercise. I would
Mhm.
encourage anyone to do this and yeah, you're probably doing tabletops because, if you're in a law firm, you have clients and your clients want to know you're doing this, and it's an indicator of a healthy, mature program, and that's all good.
Mhm.
Don't just check the box on those, right? Do them right and make sure that you're using them as an opportunity to raise awareness with the C-suite and to develop rapport with the
Mhm.
C-suite on the topics of security. So, yeah, but even then, we can't do that enough, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Making sure that we have that rapport with executive management, with key people within the firm who have channels into those conversations is so important. I mean, our general counsel is very important for that. And, I'm glad to say that we have a good relationship with our general counsel, and that's a line directly to the board,
Yeah.
if need be. But yeah, just continuing to develop that's you'll never be done doing that. Let's put it that
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I know I've always loved tabletop exercises. I feel like they're one of the best communication tools about security and redundancy or resiliency within our organizations, and kind of just even the importance or impact of some of
Hmm.
those decisions. Because in your scenario, sometimes it might look at a glance like the cheaper is to pay the ransom. But
Hmm.
there are so many unpredicted costs. Like, well, if you pay the ransom, are you really getting them out? Are they really uh, doing what they say they will? And are they not going to just come back or tell somebody else that you're
Absolutely.
an easy target?
And that was one
And
of the cautions that,
yeah.
our breach counsel advised us of. And, the other thing that kind of goes with that is we need to dot our I's and cross our T's and perform our due
Mhm.
diligence and make sure that we know, how long does it take us to recover from backup? What can we recover from backup? What
Mhm.
backups do we have? What's our RTO and our RPO? And importantly, are your backups immutable?
Mhm.
Right? And that you need to be grounded in what that definition is, what it really means, and what it doesn't mean. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of people think that they have immutable backups, but they may not necessarily be immutable, right?
Right. I've heard
Yeah.
that from our IR team quite a bit. Is
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things they'll do is go and delete your backups, and
Mm-hmm. Or
it might make
encrypt
it.
them or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because they know that that's how you're going to recover. So if they can
Mm-hmm.
take those out, and likewise, the more people that pay ransoms, the continued they'll just continue to raise the price.
Hmm.
because they want to find the largest amount they can get that you're still willing to pay. um, well, thank you, Gary. Oh, we should wrap up our conversation here, but I might have to have you on again sometime because it's just been a lot of fun chatting. There's always an
Yeah,
endless
I've
number of
enjoyed
topics.
this. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. So as we wrap up, I don't know if there's anyone you would like to express gratitude to. I have not pre-thought of mine. I guess I'll actually give a shout out to our realtor, Lynn. She's helped us out now with our second move and just helped make the process so smooth, helped us feel taken care of. So there, that'll be my gratitude. She's been amazing. We're this close to wrapping everything up on our move, and it's feeling
Okay.
good.
Those are always interesting, right? Uh,
Yes.
so this is not an endorsement, so let me put the disclaimer out there. But I want to thank Brad for all the work and investment that he's made in our program and in helping us. And FRSecure, you've provided us with a lot of very important services. And our firm, I mean, this I love Ogletree. I've been here 25 years, right?
That's
That's
awesome.
why this is all gray, and I don't have any hair right here. No, they've been a great firm to work for, and they've been extremely supportive. And I mean, I'm proud to be here. And there are just so many different people along the way. I do need to mention ILTA, International Legal Technology Association, right? Because earlier I was talking about networking, and it's just a great opportunity to connect with peers and see what other people are doing and exchange information.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good plug for ILTA. I need to get to more of their events, but it looks like they're working on a lot of great conversations and helping stay on top of all those things that are changing for technology in the legal industry.
Hmm.
So very awesome. Well, yeah, we'll wrap up here. Our next episode coming will actually be returning Evan and Oscar to the podcast, who both used to be hosts or co hosts as well, with their predictions for 2025. So that should be a lot of fun. And then likewise, anyone that has any questions, comments, suggestions, please give us an email at unsecurity@frsecure.com. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. All right.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Thank you,
Take
Gary.
care.